Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports as we cruise through another week, get closer to the NFL draft. Just 2 weeks from today, everybody, the NFL draft will kick off. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning, brother?
Getting closer, yeah, 2 weeks away, exactly. So Thursday night, might have some action, might not have some action. Who knows if they trade out? So, but NFL draft is always fun, even though I kind of ripped it yesterday. But doesn't mean you're not going to find good players. Just not enamored at the top. But the good news, the silver lining, the Eagles are good, so they're not drafting at the top. So you don't feel bad if you had to put
an over/under on, will this team make a selection on Thursday night in 2 weeks, John? What are you saying? Yes or no?
I'm slightly under, but probably 51-49. I think they prefer to trade out. I think you see them. Some of the strategy is they're looking at a lot of what I call bridge picks who might go late first, early second. So if you can if you could bail out and do some things and then maybe come up and do some things in the second round and turn some of those fifth round picks into a more meaningful premium pick, get a couple second rounders, that type of thing. I think that's the preferable way, but you always need two to tango. I think it's looking more and more likely that there will be, even though there shouldn't be, there probably will be a desperate quarterback team that will want to come back up into the first round, late first round, to get one of those quarterbacks. But you always need two to tango, and I think that's the preferable way. But you have to be prepared that if you have to pick at 32, you got to pick at 32.
Right.
Maybe you make a targeted trade up even. So what we do know is how he's going to move around the board.
Right.
So, and that's more than the first round, all over. And so he'll be making moves. There's no question about that. But I think the more likely scenario remains dropping down. But again, we're not talking about 90. They're definitely going to drop down. And people always forget the second part of the equation. You got to have somebody to trade with. So that factors into it.
Yeah, it does. Howie's been pretty good at finding that person, so hopefully he does it again. I think he will. But no doubt about it. We'll see what they end up doing there. Johnny Mac, more top 30 visits coming down. What are we up to, 20 or 21 now after the USC cornerback, defensive back Jalen Smith? Now, this is a guy who's going to go potentially way later in the draft. I believe he's in ranked around 200 or 212 by Pro Football Focus. So he's a later pick, but another cornerback, and that puts us up to, I want to say, 20 or 21 prospects track.
I believe it's 21 at this point.
Yeah, because we got the Penn State guy at the end of the show yesterday.
Yeah, Jalen Reed, safety from Penn State, sort of a hybrid guy. The Georgia kid, the defensive end. Well, actually, could be a end, could be a tackle. There's some versatility there. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, so that was reported. So I believe we're at 21, and a lot of defensive front people, followed by offensive line, followed by defensive back.
Yep.
Particularly corner, which. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you start talking about the layered part of it and the depth part of it. And Vic Fangio mentioned the depth and losing bodies, not only Slay, who's a starter, but Isaiah Rodgers and Avonte Maddox.
Right.
And the one thing about Jalen Smith is versatility. He's played nickel, he's played outside, he's played safety. So, sounds a lot like Avonte Maddox.
Right.
You get potential fifth round pick. You got 4 of them. That would be, I would think, the spot for him. Reed, obviously they're going to bring in competition for Sidney Brown. Justin Simmons is obviously hoping that's him. They might do it in the draft. And we'll see how that shakes out. But ultimately, there's going to be somebody brought into safety. And, do you want an unproven young player battling with a rookie? Not in love with that thought process, but hey, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean were pretty good rookies last year. So
yeah,
never say never.
No doubt about it. Good stuff there. Johnny Mac, the other trend I'm picking up here on these top 30 visits is if you look closely, well, one, it's clear that they're going to draft they're going to draft the secondary guy somewhere. And while I did question that at first with, you spent your top 2 picks last year on 2 corners, like you just laid out. You lost Slay, you lost Rodgers, you lost Maddox, and you lost Gardner Johnson. So there is 4 bodies gone in the secondary. They got to recoup that somehow. They signed Adoree Jackson, and then they'll go hard in the draft. But the other thing I'm noticing, John, is trade up seems unlikely based on these top 30 visits. I mean, they're not looking at anybody that's the highest graded guy I think that they've had visit was probably Donovan Izaraku from Boston College.
Yeah, I agree with that. But there's a lot of players. TJ Sanders, I would put in this list. There's a lot of players that I mentioned yesterday. 20 to 40 is not much difference.
Right.
So, if you're a team that likes TJ Sanders in the early 20s, he might go there. If teams who need a defensive tackle say, I like somebody else, he might go in the second round. And I think you have a lot of those types of prospects. I even as a Rockies that way. I could see him go in top 20, and I could see him fall into the top of the second round.
I'm with you. Yeah.
So it's about what flavor do you like? Nick Scorton as well is in that category.
Right. And there's a lot of guys. So doesn't that kind of tell you maybe that's how the Eagles are viewing it, similar to how you just did? 20 to 40 is kind of our range. But if we got to go back and we can get one of these guys, we're good with doing that.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I think they are. And that's what their thought process is. Donovan Jackson on the offensive line as well. Josh Connerly. All these guys could be first round picks. They could also be second round picks.
Right.
And that's sort of where you are with this draft. It's very hard to pin down in the first round because there's not a lot. There's usually more of a drop off, I would say. There's not a ton of blue chippers. If you ask me, there's 2. That's it.
Right.
And then you go down to maybe 12 or 13, and you get another drop. And from that drop to, so say 15, I said 20 to 40. I'm going to go 15 to 40. Kind of like, all right, what do you need? What's your favorite flavor? What player do you like? What player has the intangibles, the character for your organization, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There's, and that's why I think for everybody, it's more about going down than going up. But if everybody wants to go down,
right, it's going to be harder to do so.
Exactly.
Now, the Eagles do have that one advantage of being 32. So if the quarterback falls and somebody likes them, now here's my concern with that. I think if Shedeur does fall, I don't think he's going to fall the 32. So then you're talking about, is somebody want Jalen Milroe or Jackson Dart or Tyler Show at 32? That's a little bit more of an uphill bat. I don't know if a team will be ready to commit on one of those guys at 32. But you know how it works, John. There's a lot of quarterback needy teams in the NFL, and maybe they would be willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Pittsburgh has already talked themselves into Jackson Dart. So, I think he's going to be a first round pick.
Milroe too.
Well, yeah, they got to like everybody. It's like, I see all this hype about that. I see all this hype about Justin Fields with the Jets, and he talked yesterday. And, you could sense the legitimate optimism. That's what happens in the offseason. But they got to be. What else is there? That's their guy. For Pittsburgh, Pat McAfee had that goofy thing, and there was a rumor going on. Aaron Rodgers is going to announce he's going to sign with Pittsburgh. No. I think he's waiting on Minnesota, and if that, he might retire, or he might come back to the Steelers at that point. But, he could come in August and pick everything up and run an NFL offense. So it's not a concern about him being anywhere in the offseason. But, Pittsburgh's got to draft a quarterback whether they have him or not. And, to me, the best case scenario for the Eagles is Sanders to fall to Pittsburgh. He's not falling out. He's not falling out of the first round. He's not falling to 32.
Right.
But if he falls out, if he falls all the way to Pittsburgh, then all of a sudden you have Jackson Dart and Jalen Miller and Tyler Show, who people like him in the NFL way more than the draft people. I'm telling you. That guy.
Who, Milrow?
No, the kid from Louisville.
Oh, Tyler Show.
I'm not saying he's going in the first round, but if like New Orleans takes Sanders and everything gets bumped up,
right?
Don't be surprised if he goes in the first round. Like they like him way more than I've seen draft people. Like PFF has him at 186. I guarantee he's going in the second round. So there's a bunch of guys that people are talking themselves into, as they always do, because they're so desperate. I'm not saying they belong there, because I don't think they do. But there will be a team that wants to trade up, and it might not be 32, it might be 31, it might be 30, to get one of those guys. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's the league. And when you don't have a quarterback, you talk yourself into shit. That's why I bring up Justin Fields. The Jets are talking themselves into it.
Yeah, which is not the right guy to talk yourself into.
Desperate people do desperate things.
Of those three, Johnny Mac, who do you think? Who do you like the best? Is it Tyler Show? Is that I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Thank Jimmy.
I don't know.
He says Tyler Show is pronounced Shuck for some reason.
Tyler Shuck. All right. Okay.
I don't know if that's right. Jim, I appreciate your $5, but I am gonna fact check you on this and say, but I'm just saying Show because I'm sounding it out like grade school.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was one of the hardest things for me around the draft because I butcher a bunch of people's names. I don't want to. I should do the research to figure out what their names. But hey, look, I got too much work to do with the Eagles. I'm like,
a lot of names. Yeah.
When I get drafted by the Eagles, it's the first thing I do. If it's somebody I'm questioning about. And one of my greatest accomplishments was Halapuli Bati. I still talk about it.
You got that down on lock.
And
still,
I think to this day, I think I'm the only one who pronounces Noah Tungiai's name correctly. And it's Tungiai. So yeah, but anyway, first tangent of the day.
There you go. Jim would if Tyler Show or Shuck ends up in Philly, John will get you the right pronunciation.
Yeah. But Milrow clearly has the highest ceiling. I mean, he's the most physically gifted, probably in the entire class, to be honest. He's more gifted than Ward. Obviously,
from an athleticism standpoint, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even close from an athleticism standpoint.
Yeah. You mean bigger arm and stuff too, but
he's got a bigger arm. He's got everything. He's a 4-4. He can run. He can do it, but he's incredibly raw and undeveloped and inconsistent. And the best, the two things you have to be an NFL quarterback are accurate and processing. Those are the two top things. And he's not there with either. But ceiling wise,
him though, like Jalen Hurts or like a combo of Jalen and Lamar. I'm not saying he's those players. I'm saying Lamar's got that super athleticism and Jalen started his NFL career kind of a little bit more undeveloped, or at least he was thought to be. I wonder if teams are viewing him like that, or Jalen helped his draft profile.
It's possible, but he's by far the most physically gifted of the group, and that's the entire group. And then, Dart to me is going to be a first-round pick, and Tyler Shuck, if we're going with that, is going to be way higher than people think. I think he's clearly the next guy in the NFL's mind. So if you say Ward, Sanders, Dart, Milroe, Shuck is clearly the next guy ahead of whatever you want it. If you like Will Howard or Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers, Dylan. You know who's the best quarterback in this class? It's just the best quarterback. Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I like Dylan Gabriel. He played well.
But he's so small. So, he's not an NFL player from a physical standpoint. But as far as processing, he's way ahead of everybody else. Way ahead of. And he could be a backup for a long time, I think. And then I started my Eagles positional previews at SI, and obviously the Eagles aren't taking a quarterback in the draft, but the Bowling Green kid is coming out. To me, that's obvious. That's where you go as an undrafted kid.
Right.
You need a camp on. With Scott Lepler coming in.
Exactly. The quarterback's coach is familiar with his game.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be my bet as far as, because you want that fourth arm. Last year it was Will Greer, if you remember, who had the history with Kellen Moore, Doug Nussmeier, not a coincidence. And Connor Bazelak is his name, 2-year starter at Bowling Green. You're looking for the undrafted kid to come in. That would be my bet.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. By the way, I did do a little fact checking on the fly. Dank Jinwoo, well done. All right, it is Tyler Shuck, and he tweeted that Tyler Shuck from his own account back in 2017. I guess somebody was asking him how do you pronounce it way back then. He said it is pronounced Shuck. So I did do some research on that. Good stuff there. Tyler Shuck.
All right. Yeah. All right. We got one down.
But there you go. There's one of the names. So thank Jimu. Thanks for the super chat, brother. Good stuff there. Another top 30 visits. That's 21 names down, everybody. So we're moving right along in terms of who these guys are. If you want me to rattle them off, we got, what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 offensive tackles. We have 5 offensive tackles. We got 2 guards. You got 4 cornerbacks. You got a bunch of defensive tackles as well. So a whole litany, but it clearly shows you which way they're looking. I mean, they got edge, defensive tackle, offensive line, and cornerback. And then a safety and a running back are one-offs. So you can clearly see where they're looking to go in this draft, or at least the style of, or at least what player they're looking for, what position they're looking for in this draft. John, I'm going to ask you this, all right, after the losses here on defense and moving forward. Before I do that, I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. As always, appreciate all of you guys, as always, for being here. Hit that like button. Already got a good crowd in here on a Thursday morning. 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks from the NFL draft. We'll be streaming it. We might not even have a pick in the first round, but we will see what happens. John, I want to ask you, what's the floor on this defense in your eyes right now? I know it's an unfinished product. I think we're going to get players in the draft. I think this answer will change, and you reserve the right to change the answer. But as it stands right now, just based on the losses, what type of floor do you think this defense moved to?
Probably 20-ish.
Whoa. That's low.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of volatility in NFL defenses anyway. And I've mentioned, even if they were able to bring back this group unaffected, I would have bet against them being number 1 again, just, it's like baseball relievers. There's this great swing from year to year, and everything clicked last year, and it was a historic year. So very much like anytime you have that, you're going to regress to the mean a little bit. So even if you had all these players back, Milton and Josh and CJ and on and on and on, and N'Kobe never got hurt, you can and you find a way to bring Slay back, all of it.
Right.
I don't think they would have been number one again. It's just hard to do. But they would have been very good, obviously. But they lost significant talent. And again, that's the floor. If things go bad, you have more injuries than you had last year, which I think that's a pretty high floor, to be honest, because, if things go bad, but, you saw things go bad. You don't have to go back very far.
Right.
By the end of the 23 season, they arguably had the worst defense in football. Didn't finish whatever 30th. But they were playing like the worst defense in football at the end of the season. And Vic will prevent that kind of catastrophe. But if you don't have the players, there's only, he's not magic. People say the same thing about Stoutland, and they conveniently forget the guys. Well, he'll figure it out. Kenyon Green, he'll figure it out. Well, no, he didn't figure out Andre Dillard.
Right.
And you see the drop off from Mekhi Becton to Tyler Steen and, obviously Jordan Mailata to Fred Johnson, but he gets those guys playing at a higher level. Same with Vic. But yeah, look, I've said it pretty consistently, and it's not over. And that's why I hate to make these declarative statements, because I don't believe there is 1% of a chance that the Eagles enter next season with the 4-man edge rushing group that everybody is projecting right now. I don't believe it. I refuse to believe it. I don't think Howie Roseman will do that. They're going to get some kind of defensive tackle help. They're going to bring in a safety. They're going to add to the depth in the secondary. It's going to improve a lot, starting in 2 weeks with the draft and potential additions down the road, whether it's Justin Simmons or somebody else. But the group right now, there's a lot of holes right now. Luckily, they don't have to play tomorrow.
Last year, I dubbed it the no holes defense. I can't dub it that. I can't dub it that yet this year, but we will see what Vic can do. I will say this though, in 23, from 23 to 24, your defensive personnel, I guess it changed a lot. It changed enough for Vic to make a dramatic jump. Obviously, you added Quinyon and Cooper and two of those guys, and Jalix Hunt even contributed late in the year. But it feels like Vic pulled a lot out of that defense last year as compared to 23, which obviously he did, but my floor is a little higher than you at 20 because of Vic. I know I'm not disagreeing that you got to have the players, but this team's been pretty good at player evaluation. Not perfect, but they've been pretty good, and they brought in a lot of darts. So I'm thinking Vic is going to get at least extract value out of some of them. Probably not Zach Bond. I'm not going that far, but Azeez Ojulari, a guy that has potential, a guy that has skills. What can Vic pull out of him? Guys like that. I think Vic is going to pull some stuff out of those guys, and the defense will be all right.
I don't think this defense. Again, we're talking about. There's a different. If you're assuming, I just said they're going to add an edge rusher, maybe two. They're going to add
probably a better combo for training camp, but we're having it now too.
Yeah, they're going to add a safety. It might be Justin Simmons. Then it changes everything. But I'm saying right now, that was the question. That's the question I'm answering. Right now, there's a whole lot of freaking holes, and that's why Howie Roseman said, "You got to be patient. You got to be patient." And if the Eagles, I'm sorry, but if the Eagles have their druthers, all these lottery, whatever you want to call them, Temu signings, they're not even going to play that much.
Yeah.
And that's every single one of them, with the exception of our guy, Harrison Bryant, who, because I don't know what's going on. But the goal is to, get other players on the field. And some of them aren't even here yet, because if they draft TJ Sanders,
right,
if they draft Nick Gordon, well, knock one of them off.
Right. Yep, we'll see what they end up doing there. Johnny Mac, going to get to these 2 super chats. We'll get to our first commercial break. We're going to talk to Devin Jackson in hour number 2. You guys remember Devin Jackson from the Philadelphia Inquirer. We had him on a few weeks ago, had him on a bunch last year as well, leading up to the draft. One of the best draft guys in the business. He's really good. And he's locally, obviously, works for the Inquirer. So we're going to get him up in hour number 2. We'll do that. We'll get to these super chats. Devin, Vulnerable Vitality. Appreciate you guys. Johnny Mac, are you a Masters guy? All right, the Masters are kicking off today.
I have a Masters hat. I like I'm not a historian or anything, but I like the Masters.
Yeah, I love watching. It's one of my favorite sporting events of the year. You can see I got the Masters green Kango on today, everybody. I'm ready to go for the Masters kicking off today. So one of my favorite sporting events of the year is the Masters. I love just the whole serene nature of it. But that's coming up starting today. So we'll see how that goes. And for anybody in the chat watching the Masters, enjoy it. Twiz says Masters stinks. Come on, Twiz. That's some crazy talk right there. Devin Shanahan checks in, John. He says, J-Mac, where does Ashton Genty fall? It's a good question.
Pretty high, which I don't like. I mean, I don't like taking
I got him going
backs.
to Dallas at 12.
I don't like taking running backs in the top 10, but I think he might go in the top 10. He's one of the best players in the draft. You got a bunch of teams who are bad decision makers. And they won't be ready for a running back, but they'll take a running back. So I think it starts with Las Vegas potentially. They might take him. Then you have the Bears at 10. I think that's his floor. I think they'll take him. And you mentioned Dallas. I think Dallas would love to take him. But I don't think he gets by Chicago, worst case scenario. He's one of the best players in the draft. You could argue he's the 3rd best player in the draft. But I don't like taking running backs that high. But it's not a good draft at the top.
Yeah, it just rarely works out. Like even a guy that has now cemented himself in Philadelphia Eagles history and NFL history with what he did last year in Saquon Barkley, it didn't work. Taking him that high didn't work. That's why, like, however good Ashton Genty is, I'm not a fan of him going that high. But we'll see what ends up happening with him. I like him going to Dallas. I don't think that'd be a good pick for them, but it's something I could see the Cowboys doing. So we will see what happens.
A lot of teams that will make that decision. So I think it's good for Ashton as well. I don't think he's going to last long. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick.
All right, here we go. Vulnerable Vitality checks in with another super chat. What's up, brother? Connor Mizzou legend Bazelak getting a mention on Birds 365 was not on my bingo card. We were one of his 3-4 schools. LOL. I love it, man.
Yeah, he played forever. That's part of, the Eagles don't like older prospects, but we're talking about undrafted kid. He's almost 25. To me, it makes too much sense. It's not going to play. They're locked in with Jalen and Tanner McKee and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Not going to be on the 53. So you're only talking about a camp arm and a practice squad guy. And, he's got a history and a pretty successful one at Bowling Green, which was his last college, with Scott Lepter, who's the Eagles' new quarterbacks coach. You're going to have an in with him. Now, there's always the potential that Scott Lepler secretly dislikes him because he was around him. But they had a lot of success for Bowling Green.
Right.
I don't see why he wouldn't like him. To me, it makes too much sense.
It's good stuff there. Daz brings up a good point going back to the running back. He says, I don't know, Gibbs, Bijan, and Zeke were all worth it in my opinion, but Daz, I do think those are entirely different situations. And I can also push back on Bijan. I mean, was Bijan really what the Falcons needed? I mean, what have they won? What have they done since he's been there? I know he's a great player.
He's a great player. That's the point.
Right.
He's a great player. You could
I'm
argue.
not saying he's not a great player. Yeah, he is an excellent player. But with Zeke and with Gibbs, I mean, look at what Gibbs went through, Daz. He's got weapons all around him. That's why he's able to flourish so well, I think.
Yeah, Detroit's ready to win.
Yeah.
And you see the impact of a running back like Gibbs. And Bijan, you could make a strong argument that Bijan's the best running back in football. He's on a team that's not ready. He's Saquon.
Right.
He's Saquon on the Giants. A little bit. I mean, the Falcons are a little bit better than the Giants. I'm not going to disparage them to that.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, and he's a great, nobody's disparaging, and Zeke as well. They're all good players. I don't, unless you're ready to win, I'm not taking a running back because there's too many other positions that are more important. And you just saw the best running back season, arguably, in NFL history. I mean, if you want to take it to include the postseason, nobody's ever had more rushing yards in a season than Saquon Barkley. I still believe the offensive line is the more important part of that equation. I think Saquon would tell you that, well, I mean, you know how players are. Saquon will tell you the same thing, but then the offensive line will tell you, no, it's Saquon. So they prop each other up, as well they should. But like, we have a long history of Saquon with a bad football team. Same player, arguably even better, more dynamic.
Right.
Because he was younger, didn't have some of the injuries that piled up. And you saw the result over a long period of time.
Yeah, drastically different results, no doubt.
So if you're ready, yeah, go get the running back.
People are not happy you just called Bijan Robinson the best running back in football.
Well, because they don't understand what I'm saying. They're focused on, they love their guy. I'm not saying he had the best season.
Yes, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
I'm saying he's a very, very good player that you don't know because he's not on a very good team. Well, you don't know, obviously, how good he is. We've been through this. It could be
well, 2 years ago, if, all these people would have said Barkley's not the best running back in football.
Exactly.
So
I don't know why it's so hard for people. I say it all the time with Matthew Stafford at quarterback. He was a better player in Detroit than he was in Los Angeles. I mean, it's not really that big of a controversial statement. You need other players. Bijan Robinson is very good. Very, very, very good.
He's a top 5 talent at the position, no doubt.
Oh,
that'll give you. I'm not going to give you best running back in football.
You should look at his season last year.
What about Gibbs? I thought you had Gibbs way up there too.
Well, Gibbs is phenomenal. I'm saying I believe I said he's in the conversation.
Yeah, and that's what you always say. You never pick up best overall. No. You always say in the combo.
Yeah. He's a much better receiver than a certain someone we shall not name. He ran for over 1,400 yards on that shit ball of a team, 14 touchdowns, 61 receptions. Guy can fucking play. Could you imagine him on this team? Behind Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson and Mekhi Becton? What do you think 1,450 and that garbage, what do you think that turns into? Probably not going to turn into 2,500. Again, people think I'm disparaging Saquon. I'm saying it might be 2,000 counting the playoffs with about 70 receptions because he can fucking run routes and catch the football.
No, those are pretty good numbers, man, for the Falcons. I mean, come on, everybody. 1,400 yards and 61 receptions. I mean, that's pretty impressive for Bijan Robinson. Look, everybody, it's funny that everybody's turned on him. I mean, we used to be Bijan 365.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we were for a little bit.
Boy, he would be so good here. So freaking good here. And the Eagles were right. They were thinking about taking him in the first round, but later in the first round. You know, if they were thinking about coming back up to get him if he fell. He never fell. He went like 8th overall.
Yeah.
They're smart enough. They're not going to take him. Not that they could have taken him in 2023 because he went, again, top 10. And they went with the pick before the Eagles traded up to get Jalen Carter. And the Eagles were going to take Jalen Carter. But they wanted to trade back up and get Bijan. But he never fell. So, you know, could you imagine if they got both of those players?
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, he's pretty fucking good. You might want to watch another NFL game occasionally besides your favorite team.
No, he is damn good. There's no doubt about it. I'm not about to shit on him. The guy's super talented, and the Falcons kind of stink. So they're not the Giants, but they're not great at all either. So Johnny Mac, good stuff there. We're gonna get to our first commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about. I got a question for you. All right, a little macro question. I saw this on Twitter last night, and I want to ask you about it. It's a top franchise question. You look at it since 2000. Eagles have got to be up there. So we'll talk about that when we come back. BG made some comments yesterday that made some headlines. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk to Devin Jackson coming up at 9:20 on the show. So we'll do all that coming up on Birds 365. Appreciate you all listening. Hit that like button. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone & Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give us a follow on X. I'm at Real Zander. Johnny Mac is at JF McMullen. And for those of you over on Instagram, you can drop me a follow over there at Zander Krause Show. John's not active on Instagram, so I won't plug his, but just go and follow him on Twitter.
I have one. I don't know what it is, but I have one.
I think it's JF McMullen 1, I think I looked it up before. I'm going to tag you.
I don't think I've been on Instagram and Facebook, too. I have Facebook.
God, the social media, dude, I'm telling you right now, I got a list of social media shit I got to tend to every day. There's too many platforms, John. I need these things to condense into YouTube and Twitter only or something.
That's where I am. I condense them to those two. And Blue Sky. Remember, everybody's like Blue Sky.
I knew that was funny. So it was like Threads. Remember when everyone
Threads? Yeah,
Threads. Has anybody heard of Threads since then? I mean, come on.
Yeah,
too many social platforms, but all good there. We appreciate everybody being here. Let's get to the super chat real quick before I get into my topics. I didn't realize I had one. Caleb, what's up, brother? Good to see my man Caleb. Caleb always joined me on the post-game show this year. Good to see you in here, Caleb. He says, Bijan is the closest freak athlete to 26, but he is not better and was never a better prospect in college. Number 26 is a generational talent. Bijan is close, though. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon went number 2. Bijan went number 8. I'm not disparaging Saquon Barkley. I'm just saying Bijan Robinson is really fucking good. He's on a bad team. Nobody knows how fucking good he was, and they would if he ever went to a good team and they were ready to win. Does that sound familiar?
Right.
Because there were a lot of people. Saquon Barkley spent 6 seasons with the New York Giants. They didn't do a lot of winning with that generational talent. And by the way, I hate that term, but because everybody uses it, certainly that way. I don't know. I mean, he's literal proof of what I'm saying. Saquon Barkley is literal proof of what I'm saying.
Right.
He's great as the finished product, and I've said it all the time with the New York Giants, everybody dunking on the New York Giants. All I do is criticize the New York Giants. You know what I don't criticize them for? Finally moving on from Saquon Barkley. Because they're not ready for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, they're not.
They never were. And that's why they spent 6 years. And when they did finally make one playoff appearance and they won one playoff game against one of the worst defenses in modern history, literally from a statistical standpoint, and then came into Philadelphia the next week and got just boat raced and convinced themselves that Daniel Jones was the answer. Yeah, they were never ready for him. He's literal proof of what I'm trying to say. But people get in their feelings and they're like, oh, that's my guy. I got to go defend him. You don't need to defend Saquon Barkley. He's great. So is Bijan Robinson.
Who's the top 5 running back? Saquon, Bijan, Derrick Henry.
Saquon.
Gibbs.
And I'm not putting them in order, so settle down.
Yeah,
Bijan certainly is top 5. Jameer's top 5 in my book. Jameer Gibbs, and then probably Josh Jacobs, I would say. But I think there's quite a drop off from 4 to 5. Not Jacobs is a very good player, but I think the top 4 is pretty clear and definitive.
You think McCaffrey's toast, John?
I don't know if he's toast, but you got to see where he is. But yeah, obviously he wasn't healthy in his prime. Yeah, he was number 1, but yeah, football moves fast, as I always say. And with him, you got to see if he's healthy. And then if he is healthy, how much is left? Because it's a position where And that's my biggest concern with Saquon coming off last season. You see the history of guys who touch the football a lot and who play a lot. And because the Eagles, remember, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. So Saquon Barkley led the NFL in offensive snaps, led running backs, the entire NFL. Obviously, they played more games than anybody. He was over 1,000 snaps as a running back. And the only one even close was Kyron Williams. The Rams obviously went pretty deep as well. He's the only other one with over 1,000, and he's much younger. And I don't even like that for him, by the way. And then, you're down into the 800s. And Saquon had 1,020. So it's a position that guys take a pounding, to say the least. So it moves quickly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Good stuff there. Appreciate the super chat. Caleb, Abe checks in with a super chat. He says, here we go. Abe, you're going to get us on a tangent here. Off football. You're going to get us in trouble, Abe. He says, 0-1 Shaq would give 25 Jokic nightmares. Agreed?
Well, are we playing like it's 0-1 or are we playing like it's 25?
So that's a perfect response.
Again, if time machine has got to work both ways. If you want to go back to 0-1 and go back, well, you got to say, what would Shaq do in 25? Different game. If Shaq was allowed to be physical, he'd out physical. Obviously, Joke is more gifted from a skill standpoint. And they don't play the game the same way. So again, who's the fish out of water? Because they're both would be fish out of water.
The one thing is about Jokic. You ever seen a picture of his brother?
I have, yeah.
He is like a literal human tank. Like, he makes Jokic look tiny. And I'm like, I don't know. This guy might come from a different breed of bloodline. Those Serbians, Abe. I'm telling you, man, that guy might be a beast. So he actually might be one guy who could handle Shaq. How about a better one for you, Abe? He would give Joel Embiid nightmares. That I will agree with. Okay. How about
physically, that? Yeah. I mean, he might break Joel in half. I mean, but because he was so physical. But again, skill wise, and I'm not the biggest Joel Embiid fan, but skill wise, Joel Embiid's a hell of a lot better than Shaquille O'Neal.
Well, skill wise, absolutely. Shaq was, obviously a beast, but he couldn't shoot.
And Jokic is a hell of a lot better than Joel Embiid skill-wise.
Jokic is insane, man. Jokic is so good.
He is.
Remember when Sixers fans used to say that Embiid was better than Jokic?
Yeah, well, they're in their feelings.
Yeah, he's not better than Jokic, guys. Sorry. I don't even think he's really close, to be honest with you. I mean, I think he's good, but I don't think he's
Everybody's got to be the best. And if you say they're not the best, then you're see with the quarterback now. You see it with the running back. We just went through it. You see it with Joel Embiid at the height of his career, even though it's obvious in another direction. It's Philadelphia.
No doubt about it. All right, Johnny Mac, let's move into this segment I got for you here. I want to ask, all right, and this is a zoomed out, a little bit of a zoomed out question before we get back into the NFL draft. We have Devin Jackson coming up from the Inquirer in about 20 minutes or 25 minutes or so. The top franchises in the NFL, John, since 2000. Eagles got to be top 3 by then. And maybe it's top 5. Maybe it's close. But obviously the Patriots number 1. They've been to 9 Super Bowls since 2000. I mean, how the hell do you argue that? Can't argue against that. But outside of those guys, you got the Chiefs who've been to 5 and won 3. You got the Eagles, who've been to 3 and won 2. Honorable mention would probably be the Steelers. I think they have 2 Super Bowls since 2000 as well. I don't know how many they've been to, but they would probably be an honorable mention. And then Ravens, Packers probably in there. Where do you think the Eagles rank since 2000, John?
Number 1. I'm going to give it to the Eagles. Number 1. Now,
How
I
do you
look at
figure?
it a little bit differently. It's not just about, because what's happened to the Patriots post Tom Brady, um,
Right, they're picking third overall
Kansas
again.
City, deserves credit for the courage of their convictions and going up and getting Patrick Mahomes and doing that. But, lightning strikes, and they're very good. They'd be number 2. But I think if you look at the Eagles and their consistency, I think they're number 1. I think they make the most good decisions. They've gone to, Super Bowls with different quarterbacks. It's not the greatest of all time and the guy chasing the greatest of all time. They won with Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, and they've won with Jalen Hurts. They built their team different ways. They've won with defense. They've won with rushing. They've won with passing. They've won with different coaches. They're the best organization in the NFL. Number 1. Now, if you just want to grade it by Super Bowls, yeah, New England's number 1 and Kansas City.
I see what you're saying, though. Once Brady left, they were dysfunctional. They've been dysfunctional since.
Exactly.
So was it Brady or was it the organization? Obviously, would show you that it was a lot Brady and Belichick. That's actually a good perspective on it. I didn't have the Eagles at number 1, but I will admit I was more slanted by the Super Bowl appearance.
And I hate saying that because I think they're egomaniacal, but they make more good decisions than any other organization in the NFL, and they have for a very long time. But I kind of look at things in a different way than other people. Everybody's results oriented. That they'll tell you it's about the process. It is about the process. All great coaches, executives will tell you it's about the process. And by that, they mean if you keep doing the right things day after day after day, eventually good things will happen. That's the philosophy. Doesn't guarantee. Making a good decision doesn't guarantee a good result. And making a bad decision could end up in a good result. People cannot wrap their head around that. A lot of people. But if you make consistent bad decisions, you're going to start getting bad results.
You're the Giants, right?
If you make consistent good decisions, you're going to start getting real good results. And that's what the Eagles do. I always say they don't. How many times have you heard me on the show say they don't sign bad contracts? People can't wrap their heads around that. Well, what about Bryce Hubb? Wasn't a bad fucking contract. It's a bad result. And that's going to happen. But as long as you stick to your guns and still make good decisions, the vast majority of them worked out. And here we are, 3 Super Bowls in 8 years. 3 different quarterbacks essentially over that span. 2 different coaches. In Nick Sirianni era, 4 consecutive playoff appearances, 2 NFC championships, a Super Bowl.
Yep.
Best general manager in the NFL, best owner in the NFL. They're the best organization in the NFL.
It's impressive. So based on your approach, which I like your approach, because you look at Chiefs and Patriots, while they have all the hardware, they weren't a great operating organization without the Hall of Fame quarterback.
Well, I mean, they were good. I'm not saying that, but
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Eagles have had bad seasons since Andy Reid. Basically, we're talking about 1999 when Andy got here. They've had some bad seasons. Because the talent level is cyclical. And you have to know when to seize your opportunity. I think they've gotten better at that with Howie than they were with Joe. Sorry, Joe. They understand the windows better. And even Howie learned from the first time, probably stayed pat a little bit too much after Super Bowl 52. So, when you're talking about 25 years, there's going to be bad seasons, but not many in Philadelphia.
So I would assume you'd have the Ravens ranked really high.
Yeah, the Ravens are a very good organization.
Steelers, I'd assume you'd have the Steelers as well, maybe the Packers as well, another team that consistently makes pretty good decisions.
Yeah, I mean the Packers, I think, have taken a hit since losing some of their decision makers, but still over the long haul, they've been one of the good. I mean the Giants, Giants were one of the best organizations for years, and then they made some bad mistakes, moving on from some people, and after one of those bad seasons or little bad hiccups, and went in a different direction, they haven't been able to recover. Patience is a part of it too. So always when people ask me this type of question, I always start with the Eagles in Baltimore. To me are 1-2. Just the consistency to me is more impressive. I've told you that with the Bills and the Super Bowls. Like you can go win a Super Bowl and it's impressive. It's always impressive. That's the goal. But there's only one team. We're at number 60 of these things next year. And there's only one team that has made 4 consecutive. That's it. One. And everybody shits on them because they didn't win one. Can you even imagine going to 4 consecutive Super Bowls?
It's tough to do.
Yeah, well, only one team has done it, so that'll tell you how tough it is.
Boy, I bet they wish they won one of them, though, man. Holy shit.
Yeah, that'd be regarded as one of the greatest runs of all time, even if they just get one. But, yeah, I mean, I get it. People are bogged down. Or who won? They're the best. Well, not necessarily, as we point out. Maybe not in college basketball, but occasionally there's an upset in sports. And often the best team doesn't win, especially in a one-and-done scenario. It's much harder if you think about the NHL and the NBA. It's much harder to win a 7-game series if you're the worst team.
Right.
You can have a good night, steal a game.
Yeah.
But if the other team's better, they're going to win. One game, though?
Mike Iverson in the finals, man. He was balling in that, but yeah, not enough.
Yeah. One game is just got to have one bad night if you're the best team. And the other team's just got to bring their A game.
Right. It's a part of what makes football so fun. But just for those wondering, since 2000, here you go. Super Bowl wins for the Birds, 2. Super Bowl appearances, 4, 2004, 17, 22, and 24. 15 playoff appearances. So no doubt they are operating at a high level. Johnny Mack has them as the best franchise in all of football. So well done there.
And they were, and by the way, that's right now. That's not, they've learned.
Yeah.
Andy started it in 99 and they've learned. And right now they're cooking and they know what they're doing. And, one of the biggest differences, as I mentioned, with Andy and Joe versus Howie now, Howie has a better feel for when the window is open and to go seize it, which is what he did last year. He seems to have a better feel for that. The Rams did that a couple of years ago. You have to understand because you're not going to be in a position to win every year. Just not. Doesn't work that way. You're never going to say it publicly, but there's certain years you go to training camp and you might have a good team, might have a bad team. In the case of the Eagles, you might have a great team. And when you have a great team, you got to seize that moment and do something. And he did some different things, go get a running back. They had good running backs. Pro Bowl running backs with Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift, and you saw the difference from good and great. But yeah, they're they've learned, and part of that is patience, and that's where Jeffrey Lurie comes in.
Yep, no doubt about it. Yeah, John, let's talk about Brandon Graham a little bit. He's making a little bit of a media tour. He was on with Kay Adams. He was on with New Heights with Jason Kelsey and Travis Kelsey. I think that comes out today. I'm not sure if that interview released. I saw them put up a clip where BG, BG called Howie and was like, "Are you sure you want me to hang him up here? I still got some left." So BG says he's 90% retired, Johnny Mac. If Joshua Uche and Aziz Ojulari don't work out, maybe they'll give Brandon a call and bring him back. But I thought his comments were interesting yesterday. Always good to hear from Brandon Graham. It does have to be tough to hang him up, John, when you play at such a high level, because he was playing super high level before that injury. And then the injury kind of ended his season. He came back for the Super Bowl, which he said admitted he wasn't ready to come back for, where he retore his tricep. But got to be tough to hang him up. But it was good to hear from Brandon Graham yesterday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people ran with that, seeing the one clip. If you watch the whole sort of context of it, he mentioned he's 90% because, he wants to keep working out and keep himself in shape.
Right.
It's more about that than if Josh Uche gets injured. And he's going to have more hurdles than Josh Uche because they're going to bring in young edge rushers. Brandon's retired. He's not coming back. And, but he was thinking about it from the standpoint of he was playing at such a high level before he got hurt. And when he got hurt, that's when he started. And honestly, he wanted to come back for another year, thinking he didn't want to go out with a torn tricep on November 24th.
Right.
But all of a sudden, the Eagles kept winning and kept going. And the Super Bowl, and he shouldn't have played. He had to sign a waiver to play, and he retore the triceps. And that's where, once the fairy tale ending, and that's what Howie told him. But I think he would be back if they didn't make the Super Bowl. I think he would be back. He doesn't tear his triceps.
Right.
So he's healthier. He would have played for $3 million, whatever he played for. So it wouldn't have been a money thing. Vic would have advocated for it.
Vic loved him. Vic was playing him a lot. And John, the credit to you, you predicted that too, where you were like, it's his retirement tour. I'm wondering if he gets more playing time this year. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, yeah, it's not a prediction. It was more of, a hint
right.
that Vic had given me. And so I don't want to take credit for it, but I kind of knew that was going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think if they don't make the Super Bowl, he is back. But, Howie said, this is fairy tale. And it is. Walk off after 15 years with the same team in this era of free agency. After the way it started, when everybody thought he was a bust and they wanted Earl Thomas and Jason Pierre-Paul and yada, yada. Nobody's ever played more games for the Philadelphia Eagles, although Lane might catch him. But I digress.
How far back is Lane?
I don't know. I have to look. But if Lane plays 3 more years, I think he'll, and he's healthy. I mean, that's a big part of it. But anyway, it was fairy tale. Why come back and lose in the, I'll get people upset, lose in the divisional round, and then it's over.
Are you tipping your hand on what you think, how you think the Eagles season will end this year?
No, I'm not tipping my hand at all. Right now, they're not a Super Bowl team, but it's April 10th. They haven't even done the draft. That's what Howie said. There's a lot of moves to be made. Again, I go back to the A.J. Brown year. They got A.J. Brown on draft night. They got James Bradbury on June, I think. They got C.J. in August at the cutdown. That's a all-pro receiver, second-team all-pro cornerback, and the NFL interception leader, all acquired after this date. So, yeah, right now they're not equipped to go back to the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean they can't be equipped to go back to the Super Bowl. And by the way, they still have the core great players where they could even do it without that. But again, it's unlikely. Everything would have to go right, I would say. You know, Sidney Brown would have to step up and play at a high level. Kaylee Ringo would have to step up and play at a high level. Jalix Hunt, Moro Ajomo. All these players would have to step in and step up. Tyler Steen at a high level. I can't be that optimistic.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, real quick, before we get Devin Jackson, I do want to turn back to draft because we're going to have Devin Jackson on in about 7 minutes from now from the Philadelphia Inquirer. We ran through the top 30 visits. The one thing, again, that still sticks out, no tight ends. We're up to 21 names, John. 9 are left. And then we have yet to hear about a tight end visiting the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's weird, man.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It is, right? I mean, even by your standard, that's weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. Now they have improved the depth, I guess, from their standpoint. They got a lot of bodies. I don't think anybody should be confident. You know, if this is without Dallas Goedert, and Dallas Goedert remains under contract. If Dallas is back, everything's fine. You're fine. You know, you got Dallas Goedert, you got Grant Calcaterra as the backup, and you've gotten better at the third tight end, whether it's Harrison Bryant or Kylan Granson. You've gotten better at the third tight end spot. So if Dallas is here, everything's fine, but all indications are that Dallas is probably not going to be here. So then it turns into a disaster area, basically, you know, because you have a backup who's not equipped to be a starter. You got third tight ends who probably shouldn't be second tight ends, and you're putting guys out of position, and forcing them to do probably more than they should be forced to do. Now, you know, you can also play offense differently, and you know, lean more on Jahan Dotson, who I think is a good third receiver, and I'm in the minority there. They've never done that. Doesn't mean they can't do it. And you could just play a little bit differently. But, you know, I never like giving away good players, and that's why I don't like losing Milton Williams and Josh Sweat and CJ from a football perspective. It's tough to give away good players. You never want to go.
Do you agree it was the right decision to let those guys walk?
Yeah, I mean, each decision individually was the right thing. Milton got paid too much. Josh got paid too much. CJ, you could argue, was the one that, but there were other avenues to deal with there.
Right.
But from a football perspective, just the pure football perspective, CJ's the one you could argue. The other ones, I mean, even Rodgers. Can't keep Rodgers. If you don't think Rodgers is a starting cornerback, and they don't, you can't keep him for what he got from Minnesota. You don't play backup corner $7.5 million. Doesn't work that way. So each individual decision, even Mekhi Becton, you know, when you see what's coming and Cam's extension and already what Landon makes and Lane makes and Jordan makes, can't pay him.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening with Dallas Goedert and all the rest of the guys here as we get closer to the NFL draft. 2 weeks away, John. 2 weeks away. 2 Thursdays from now, we'll be talking about round one, making our predictions. Your mock draft will be coming out in what, 12 days, 11 days, somewhere in there? So,
Wednesday before the draft.
Well, all right, so 13 days away from the mock draft, which might be bigger than the damn draft for crying out loud. But we will wait for that on Johnny Mac. Appreciate everybody being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. We'll take a commercial break. When we get back, Devin Jackson from the Philadelphia Inquirer will join us. He's been on before. He was on a bunch last year as well. So looking forward to talking to him, but we'll take our commercial break. We'll be right back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
Your financial future is on the line. Are you ready for what's next? At Leone and Company Wealth Management, we help young professionals, business owners, and pre-retirees navigate the complexities of building and protecting wealth. For young professionals, we'll help you grow your wealth, plan for your future, and make the most of your hard-earned dollars. For business owners, we provide strategies to protect your company, manage risks, and create a lasting legacy for both your business and personal wealth. For pre-retirees, we'll design a plan to secure your retirement, ensuring you can live comfortably and confidently in your next chapter. Whether you're just starting out, managing a thriving business, or preparing for retirement, we're here to help you take control of your financial future. The first consultation is on us. Get the advice you need without the cost. Let's make your financial vision a reality. Take the next step. Scan the QR code to schedule your free consultation today. And of course, go Birds.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mack, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town, getting ready to talk to Devin Jackson from the Philadelphia Inquirer here. He's going to join us in just a couple of minutes, so we'll get him up soon. We had him on, honestly, 3 or 4 weeks ago. He was excellent then, and he'll be excellent today. But we will break down some of the top 30 visits and what the Eagles might do. I see Devin in the green room now, so we're going to get to him. John, I got one quote to read to you before we bring up Devin Jackson. It's from our boy Adam Schefter. He says, "Let me give you one team that I think is going to be in the market to be bouncing all around, either moving up draft boards."
Come on, Adam. Come on.
Hey,
I had to break.
There's a reason I'm reading this. That would be your defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. Sounds like Johnny Mack. John, I think Adam Schefter rips you. I think Adam Schefter listens to you.
No, I mean, he's not ripping. How he moves, everybody knows that. Come on.
I was reading because I knew you wouldn't like the comment.
No, well, it's not that I don't like it. It's just obvious. But, I a lot of respect for, wrapping that up as something that might be of interest that the aggregators can jump on. But that's a skill in itself. But yeah, Howie Roseman's going to move. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody, or should be. That's what he does. He moves up and down the draft. He's got accumulated so many picks to begin with over the next 2 years. Can't use them all. He's got 4 fifth-round picks. He's not going to use 4 fifth-round picks.
Right.
One thing I know about Howie, he doesn't like cutting draft picks. You really want to keep 4 fifth-rounders?
He's got too many draft picks. Yeah.
He had to do it last year with 3. So sometimes that can be, but yeah, Howie's going to move up. He's going to move down. It's going to be more than the first round. You know, and sometimes, but I always say it takes two to tango. So you always need, people forget the other side of the equation. Sometimes you have to stay put. Sometimes you want to move. Nobody wants to come up. Nobody wants to drop down. So you need two to tango, but nobody's better at it than Howie.
No doubt about it. Let's get to our main man, Devin Jackson, joining us from the Philadelphia Inquirer, one of the best at covering the draft of anybody. So he's going to join us now on the show. Devin, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Thursday edition of Birds 365?
Yeah, I'm doing great. 2 weeks out from the NFL draft, and feels like we're finally getting to the end time here, and getting closer and closer to figuring out who the Eagles are going to select at 32, or what they might do in the first round, whether it's trade back or trade out of the first round altogether.
Yeah, good to see you, Devin. I want to give you a chance, by the way, and congratulations. I see you've teamed up with our buddy Ross Tucker for Draft Digest, both in print form and PDF form. Where can the people get that? Because they should certainly invest in that if they want to be prepared for the NFL draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's I don't know the actual name of the website. I do have the link to it, so I can send that over to you guys. But the link it's called simplecirc.com, and then it's like /subscribe/draft digest. So I can send you guys a link there, and for a chance to get it. But yeah, it's I believe it's only like $5, so relatively cheap. But yeah, it has my prospect rankings, a 7-round mock draft, a look at some of the different team needs for each team. It has a bunch of different information, positional rankings, guys that are projection versus production. There's a lot that went into it. So really looking forward to people taking a look at it and consuming it, and definitely a lot of hard work, but definitely proud of it and the way that it came out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You've been crushing it. All your draft work is excellent. So we're definitely going to check that out. If you send that over to me, brother, I'll post it up too, so our audience can check it out, because a lot of people like when you join the show and follow your draft work. So we will do that. Devin, I got a general question to start with on this draft. All right, me and Johnny Mac, maybe we're off base, but we've been joking. This draft is just not that exciting. Maybe it's because the Eagles are 32. Maybe it's because we won the Super Bowl. Maybe it's because we might not even pick on Thursday night 2 weeks from now. But what do you think of this draft? Is it a good draft in your eyes? How do you gauge just this overall draft class?
I think it's a draft that you really have to find guys that fit your team, fit roles. I don't think there's as much star power as we're usually used to, and part of the reason is, the lack of top-end quarterback talent and lack of top-end receiver talent. Obviously last year you look at the class, and I believe the first 14 picks were offensive players. So that just showed you what the star power was, the strength of the draft. This one is going to be a little bit different. Obviously Cam Moore is expected to go number 1 overall, but after that, it could get interesting. Dual Carter and Travis Hunter could go off the board next. Shedeur Sanders could maybe go inside the top 4, or he could slip outside of the top 4. So I really think, once we get to number 3 in the draft, because it seems like the Browns are going to go Travis Hunter, I think it's a little bit more unpredictable. But I think it's been a little bit more fun to dive into the different players that could be available at 32. And I think because the unpredictability of the draft, there's really no guys that you can really pin down for the Eagles, or fairly for anyone after the first 10 picks. I think that's what is going to make this draft so unique, is that I think everyone's going to have a hard time predicting exactly where everyone's going to go. So I think you're really going to get an unpredictable first round. A lot of guys that maybe you think wouldn't go inside the top 15, top 20 end up going. There's some really talented players are going to end up, there late first round, early second round. And I think the biggest strength of this draft really, though, is on day 2, where I think guys from, like 35 to 75 or 80 are ranked about the same. And you could really see some shakeups even on day 2 as well. So I think, this is a draft, I think, of a little bit of acquired taste. Like the defensive line and edge rusher class are really good. And I think they're really going to get drafted quite frequently. But the scarcity of the tackle class, the receiver class at the top, and the quarterback class, I think is going to make it real interesting for some teams. And you might see a few more trades than, we've seen in the past few years inside the top 10, top 15, just because, teams don't know who's going to be available, within a few picks of them. And I think some teams are going to get aggressive to get the guy that they want.
Devin, where do you have Travis Hunter? Because there's so much. Some people say he should be a receiver. Some people say a corner. Some people say both, which I don't know if is realistic in the modern NFL, just from a logistical standpoint and how they do things with meetings during the week. What do you see him as? One thing, he's, to me, there's only 2 real blue chip players in this draft: Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. That's it for me. That's how good he is, but where does he fit?
Yeah, to me, I really think it depends on what the team that's picking him, what do they have a bigger need at? But for me, I have him as a corner because I think that's where he's the biggest separation is between him and the next player. I like him comfortably over Will Johnson, even though I think Will Johnson is still a really good player. But I really like Hunter's ability, his instincts, his ball skills, his closing speed on the ball. I think it really all fits at corner. And if a team really feels like he can be a weapon on the offensive end, I feel like it's much easier to put packages in for him on offense rather than him playing a full-time receiver and then playing like in certain snaps on defense. So I think it's a little bit easier to get him on on offense in smaller doses than trying to do vice versa. So I think Hunter is going to be a really good corner at the NFL level. I think that's where he can make an immediate impact. I think he could be a really good receiver at the NFL level, but I think his skill set and what he brings to the table as a corner is a little bit more valuable.
I agree with you there. Devin, let me talk Eagles with you. Just looking at these top 30 visits, we got about 21 names so far that we know. A lot of defensive linemen, a lot of offensive linemen, and cornerbacks. They're going cornerback here after double dipping last year. What do you think of the top 30 visits? Do any of the names stick out at you? And does it indicate any philosophy that you think the Eagles might be targeting in this draft?
I think it's a commitment still to the trenches. Obviously, I think they're always going to do their homework on the trenches and players that could be available there at 32 or maybe on day 2 of the draft. So to me, it still signals that's still their philosophy and still what they are looking to do in the NFL draft to draft the trenches to continue to upgrade. Obviously, the right guard spot and the defensive tackle spot are the 2 spots that could use an upgrade through the draft. Even though I know they have guys at both spots that they feel comfortable with on the roster. But I think that's what that signals. And then the corner spot, I think, again, it's doing their due diligence. I would be very surprised if they took a corner with their first pick or even their first 2 picks, just because of what the capital that they put into it, through the draft last year and then some of the additions they made in free agency as well. But I think, as the visits continue to roll through, I think you're going to see maybe a few tight ends on there, maybe a few more safeties. And I think they've done their homework on both of those positions. And I think, again, we can't, take the top 30 as full on. They're going to take one of these guys, but I think it shows the interest in certain positions. I think they'll be in the market for offensive line, defensive line. Ultimately, I think they'll still be on tight end at some point. And then I think we'll maybe get a few tight end visits reported as we get closer to the draft. And then I think, safety is also seems to be somewhat of a priority, and especially for the defensive backs. I think a couple of them, Jacob Parrish and Jalen Smith, who was reported yesterday. Both of those guys are a little bit more versatile, could play a few different spots. And I think that's what they're looking for is getting a few versatile guys in the building and seeing what they can do with them.
Yeah, I think everybody, sort of looks at losing Avonte Maddox and saying, it's not that big of a deal. But he played a lot of different positions. And that's what when I saw Jalen Smith, I said, well, there you go. Nickel, outside corner, safety, a little bit of safety. Avonte played slot. He played dime last year. He played safety. You do need depth pieces as well. So it's not always just about the early picks on these top 30 visits, but I'm with you. That's where I was going to go. I always like to look at the themes of it. And I think you're right with the trenches, and it's a deep draft up front, and the Eagles are going to get a defensive front person pretty early. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that. But the absence of the tight ends has surprised me because it's also a deep tight end draft. And there's still 9 to go. So plenty of time, as you mentioned. And I'm sure they're going to look at some tight ends, and there's other ways to do it, as you know, pro days and all that kind of stuff. But I sense some subterfuge in trying to keep these names as close to the best as possible. In a lot of ways, I look at it and say, well, they're taking a tight end at some point. Is that how you look at it, Devin?
Yeah, I think so. I think for them, maybe it's about a guy that they don't want to get out there, that they have big interest in. To me, since the Senior Bowl, I feel like Mason Taylor is a guy that they are really in on and really like. I think they're trying to mask a little bit of that interest just because they know other teams are going to be, in the market for him and want him as a player, has NFL genes in his family and, had a really good career at LSU. And really for the Eagles, it's been a while since they drafted a tight end, at least with a premium pick. I know Grant Calcaterra is like their last one that they drafted. So I think for the Eagles, especially a tight end position that they don't really draft this frequently, I think they're trying to not put too much interest out there, but it certainly feels like they're going to be interested in taking one, and maybe they're going about in a different way and not giving away in the top 30 visits in this particular draft. But we'll see as we get closer to the draft if they the reports do come out that they end up with a tight end. But I think it might be kind of a gamesmanship move here by the Eagles to not give away the certain tight end prospect they might like and may end up taking early via trade back or via the second round.
Yeah, so I think you're right on the gamesmanship aspect of it. Devin, let me ask you, if the Eagles stick at 32, which, by the way, I don't think is likely to happen, but if they do stick at 32 because the quarterback, nobody wants to trade him for a quarterback or whatever, give me a couple names that you like there that you think could realistically be there. I know this is one of those drafts where it feels like, you see guys mocked at 18 and then 38. It's like they're kind of all over the board, but give me a couple realistic names that you think are a good fit for this Eagles team, based on who they lost and based on what they need right now.
Yeah, so I think, I still feel like Walter Nolan has a good chance to be there at 32, just because of, again, the strength of the class. It may be some teams prefer some other defensive line prospects over him. I feel like he could be within, the few picks of where the Eagles are selecting towards the end of the first round. And maybe he's a guy that I feel like they could end up trading up for and moving up for to get and acquire. I look at Donovan Jackson, the Ohio State offensive lineman, I think will be in that range to be selected, play guard and tackle at the college level for Ohio State and play at a high level. Doing both. So I feel like he will be available within a few picks there. And then, I look at the edge rusher class and look at Nick Scourton, or Nick Scorden, I should say, from Texas A&M, who they brought in for a pre-draft visit. I think he's a guy that, I feel like the NFL likes a little bit more than the consensus. Didn't have quite the season he was expecting to have at Texas A&M, but still a really good player, still a productive player, and will be 21 years old, when he's drafted. So I feel like those three guys to me are certainly in the mix for 32. And if the Eagles do still stick, I think it's going to be one of those three positions that they end up taking: offensive line, defensive line, or edge. Feels like that will be the most bang for their buck and what they value most, especially at the end of the first round.
What do you think? In that vein, I want to add TJ Sanders to the conversation. Where do you think he might land? Do you think he's in that group as well, that he could potentially be there, go a little bit earlier? Because he's a guy, when he popped up, I said, oh, that makes some sense.
Yeah, I think he's a guy, more of a day two guy, but I feel like his range starts in the 40s and 50s, just because I think after that first wave of defensive linemen prospects that get off the board, I think he's going to be real coveted on day two. So I think he's more of a day two guy, but I think he certainly is a guy that the Eagles have interest in, and I think he's has powerful hands, is really athletic, can play multiple spots on a defensive line. Did some really nice things as a run defender and pass rusher. I still think he could develop a little bit more as a pass rusher, but I think he brings some 3-down ability, and he could be a nice addition to the defensive line. They obviously lost Milton Williams and needs another body up front.
Devin, what do you think of Donovan Izaraku from Boston College? That's one of the guys I really like in this draft, who I think maybe could be there, maybe could fall into the trade up range for the Eagles, but they obviously need an edge rusher with life after Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat. What do you think of that player? And do you think they would have a chance to get him sitting where they are right now?
Yeah, Izaraku is a really cool story. Local kid. He's from South Jersey. So obviously there's a lot of ties there. But yeah, he really emerged back on the scene, had the second most sacks this year in college football, and really showed the ability to use his power, his length, and speed off the edge to get around offensive tackles. And he did a really nice job at the Senior Bowl and also testing at the Combine to show that he can be an elite athlete at the NFL level. I think he still has some ways to go a little bit as a run defender, but in terms of the pass rushing ability and the ability to get to the quarterback, he brings that ability right away and has some long arms, even though he's a little bit on the smaller side at 6'1", 247. But I really like Izaraku's game, and is another one of those guys that can drop into coverage, can rush the passer, can be a little bit more of a versatile piece and use, especially on third downs, as a designated pass rusher early in his career as he continues to build out his frame and improve as a run defender. So I think there's a chance he's available at 32. I think, not every team is going to be in on him. And really, I think it depends on how the edge rusher run goes in the first round, just because I feel like the class is really good. But where the teams value this particular edge rusher class is going to be interesting after, guys like Shamar Stewart, Abdul Carter, and if you consider Jalen Walker an edge rusher, where those three guys go off the board, I think it's really going to depend, especially for Stewart and Walker, just because I feel like the map is a little bit all over with them. They feel like both top 15 picks, but where exactly they go, I think it's going to depend on how the back half of the first round shakes out.
One of the more interesting prospects to me, Devin, is, and I saw you liked him, so I want to ask you about him, is Charles Grant, the William and Mary offensive tackle. So obviously lower level of competition, ton of production, great athlete. I could see him being a guy NFL scouts like more than maybe a lot of people. How high do you think he could be? He's another player the Eagles took a look at, and I think, it's gonna be a trenches draft. But if you take Scorton, say, with your first pick, and you're hoping for Charles Grant at 64, I don't think he's going to be there. What do you think the ceiling is with him in this draft?
Yeah, he feels like a guy that is going to be really coveted as kind of the developmental offensive lineman where, you bring him in the building and you continue to help him fill out his frame and continue to develop his skill sets. I really like his movement ability. I think he's one of the more athletic offensive linemen in the draft. His ability to cut off backside defensive tackles in the run game, his easy athleticism and footwork that he shows in getting in his pass sets. And he's a former wrestler. I know a lot of coaches across the league really like guys on the offensive line that are former wrestlers and have that wrestling background. And he wrestled up until his junior year of high school, where he finally picked up football. So he's still relatively new to the game and still relatively new to the game of football and playing at this level. And, he played, I believe, at a little over 300 pounds after playing around 280, 290 for a couple of years at William & Mary. So he's a little bit on the lighter side, but I think he's got swing tackle potential and potential, right tackle of the future as well. So I think for his range, I think it'll be interesting and to depend on if they feel like he can start right away or if he feel like he needs to sit and develop for a little bit. Because I think realistically he will be there at 64 if it's the latter where they feel like he needs to sit there and develop and maybe not start right away. So I think there's a chance that he's there at the end of the second round, early third round. That feels like kind of his range and where he should go and end up going, just because I feel like, on day two, especially in that second round, you're looking for guys that can start, as soon as next year, as soon as they get into the league. So I feel like if he's more in that bucket where teams feel he's a little bit more developmental guy, I could see him slip into the third round just because he's not ready to play right away.
Devin, let me ask you about Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky. That's a guy I think maybe available in the second round for the Birds. You said you might not think that you don't think they're going to pick a corner with those first two picks. I'm with you. I don't think so either, but that's a guy I might make a change. That's a guy I might have different feelings about if he's available in round two. What do you think of that player?
Yeah, he's a really explosive player, a little bit on the smaller side, but has some excellent route recognition ability. I think he excels best in zone coverage, which obviously the Eagles play a lot of zone and play a lot of match cover zone coverage. So I think he would fit perfectly for what they do. But he's real competitive at the catch point. Obviously has the speed, had a 4.28 second 40-yard dash at the combine and really explosive athlete. And I think he's a guy that, battled a little bit of injuries in his final year at Kentucky, but when he was on the field was extremely valuable and really shut his side of the field down. So I really like his ability. I think there's a chance that maybe, you see him as more of a nickel, maybe you see him as more of an outside corner, which can depend on his stock a little bit. But I think he has enough length and size to stick out outside corner. And it certainly would be interesting for an Eagles to take an early round pick again on defensive back. But with the type of athlete he is, the type of ball skills he has, I can see them certainly be interested in him, especially if he's one of those guys that's available maybe via trade back and the Eagles feel like they can get him with good value. Obviously, you saw the Eagles drafted Cooper DeJean last year at around pick 40. And if Harrison is there around pick 40 and they trade back, I could certainly see them being interested in taking him. I just would be surprised if they take one early, but I get for Hairston what he brings to the table, the ball skills, the skill set, everything he brings to the table makes a lot of sense that they're interested in him.
At safety, Devin, there was an interesting visit with Penn State's Jalen Reed. You see the Eagles' philosophy when they want a young player to step up, they sort of get an insurance policy. For Kaylee Ringo, they have Adoree Jackson. For Tyler Steen, they have a couple of bodies, including Matt Pryor. Bring him back. Kenyon Green. They do it all the time. They want to make guys earn something. With Sidney Brown at safety, there's no obvious insurance policy yet. Justin Simmons is trying to lobby himself here after the draft. We'll see if that works out. But is Jalen Reed, can you go about it that way and say, all right, between Sidney Brown and Jalen Reed, maybe we can get competition, let the best man win. Is he that type of prospect? Where would you say Jalen Reed is?
Yeah, Jalen Reed was really interesting. Really interesting visit. Just because I feel like his skill set mirrors a little bit of what Sidney Brown does best. In terms of being more near the line of scrimmage and having some ball skills and being able to take the ball away. Over the middle of the field and being kind of inserted into the run game. So I think they're a little bit of mere copies in who they are as players and what they do best. But Reed really stepped up this year. With Kevin Winston Jr. Being hurt early in the season and him having filled multiple roles. He's played in the nickel. He's played more of the dual safety role at Penn State. He's played some single high coverage at Penn State as well. So he's another one of those versatile guys that's done a little bit of everything. But obviously, I think his best skill set is playing near the line of scrimmage and being a little bit more inserted into the box. So I think for Reed, I think he would be more of a depth piece than someone that I think competes right away for a starting spot. So I feel like he'd be a little bit more of an insurance for Sidney Brown if they do end up selecting him. I think he's a 3rd or 4th round pick, somewhere in that range. Makes the most sense for Reed, but I really like Reed and what he brings to the table as a player, physicality wise. Defending the run and being active in both the short area passing game and over the middle of the field. I think that's where you deploy him and where he works best.
Devin, you think it makes sense for this Eagles team to be trading out of this 32 overall? I know that's kind of the common line of thinking because we're Eagles fans and we watch Howie shake and bake every draft. But does that make the most sense? I mean, you got takes 2 to tango. A lot of teams might want to trade back. Do you see the Eagles trading back in this year's first round?
I feel more confident about that than them trading up, just because I feel like they want to get some more day 2 picks and be able to take advantage of where the strength of the draft is, which is those 2nd and 3rd rounds, and being able to stack picks a little bit. And obviously they have 8 selections in this draft, and a good bit of them are coming on day 3, so they can move around a little bit, and continue to, take some really good players and fill, some more needs, or maybe not even necessarily needs, but filling more potential holes on a roster down the line. So I think it will make sense to trade out of 32, especially if they don't have the 1st or 2nd guy that they really like on the board still, and continue to get into more of those day 2 and day 3 picks. So you can package them if you feel like there's other guys within that 2nd and 3rd round range that are worth trading up a little bit more for, or trading a little bit back to accumulate more future picks. It feels like that's what Howie Roseman wants to do, and certainly I would expect teams to reach out to them. But like you said, it takes 2 to tango, and you got to be a little bit aggressive, before you even get to 32. To get a trade done. So I think unless they really have their top guy on the board fall down the board, I could see them trading back and getting some more day 2 picks to take advantage of the strength of the draft.
At RealD_Jackson, make sure you follow Devin on the X platform. Does a tremendous job, as you can hear, on the NFL draft. You can read them at the Philadelphia Inquirer, inquirer.com. There was Draft Digest. We'll give you that link as well. You can order that. I recommend that highly. So I want to, whether it's drafting at 32, targeted trade up, targeted trade down, going to mention some of the names we already have. And I want to give you the highest floor. I want you to give me the highest floor of the prospect and the highest ceiling guy. So you mentioned Walter Nolan, throw in Nick Scourton, throw in Donovan Jackson, and Josh Connerly, who we haven't mentioned. As those seem like guys that could be 32, 28, 35, 40. Of that group, give me the highest ceiling and the highest floor.
I think the highest ceiling is Walter Nolan, just because he's really starting to have that light bulb turn on and starting to turn the corner in terms of putting all together. You saw it light up at Ole Miss this year after not so productive years at Texas A&M. So I think he certainly would be up there in terms of the highest ceiling. I think Connerly would be not far behind him because Connerly was a former high school running back turned offensive tackle. And has only played, a couple of years out on the edge, and he continued to develop and continue to really turn the corner. And you kind of saw the light turn on for him as well this year, and becoming a really good pass protector and understanding some of his movement skills in the running game. So those would be the top two for me. I think the highest floor is Donovan Jackson because you know exactly what you're getting from him. You know exactly the player that he is. His ability to play both guard and tackle. He's going to be a day one starter from day one. And if you're taking Jackson, you feel confident that he will start at right guard, for the Eagles in week one. Otherwise, you wouldn't be taking him that early. So I think Jackson has the highest floor. And I think Nick Scourton is somewhere in the middle. I think he's a guy that you saw some of the highs with him at Purdue and Texas A&M, but still has some development left to go. So, but that's how I would see it. I think, for Walter Nolan, he has the highest ceiling, and Donovan Jackson has the highest floor.
Donovan Jackson has no relation to the great Devin Jackson, does he?
No, he doesn't.
No, good stuff there. Devin Jackson, we appreciate it, man. Make sure you guys follow him, as John mentioned, at @RealD_Jackson. And real quick, Devin, I got the link I saw you sent. I'm going to put it in the chat right now for everybody. Just give us a quick synopsis of what that is, and I'm going to put it in because we do have a lot of guys who really love the NFL draft. So I'm going to purchase mine, and I'll drop the link in the chat as well for the people.
Yeah, so teaming with Ross Tucker, who did a lot of the team profiles and showing some of the team needs that they have, what positions they could end up drafting and taking in the class, players that they might be interested in. So I think that's such a great resource. And then for me, like I mentioned, has a top 100 for this year's draft and how I see the players being ranked. Has a 7-round mock draft where I pick for every team and every selection. And then it's kind of all listed together by team, all their team picks, and some of the priorities that each team will look to add or will end up adding. And then positional breakdowns where I go through every position and look at the top 10 players at each position, from quarterback to offensive line to defensive tackle and or edge rushers. Each one is kind of broken down by the 10 best that I see, and a little synopsis of some of the players included in each one. And then some features on some guys that are, more production guys and guys that could contribute right away, and some guys that may be a little bit more projections and what they bring to the table. They might be a little bit more of an acquired taste and a look ahead to the 2026 class and some top names that will be floating around this time next year.
Good stuff, Devin. We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you guys all go follow Devin, read all his work. We appreciate it, Devin. We'll talk to you again maybe after the NFL draft, after the Eagles make some of their selections. We'll get your wrap up on what they did. We appreciate it, brother.
Awesome. Thanks so much again, guys, and looking forward to the chat again.
All right, cool.
Thanks, Devin. Appreciate it.
Here on Birds 365. We appreciate him. Always has great breakdowns, Johnny Mack, of the players here in this NFL draft. But just 2 weeks out, brother, getting closer to this draft for the Birds and to see what they're going to do. They got a lot of work to do to rebuild this, obviously, Super Bowl caliber team, #1 defense in the NFL. So a lot of work to be done, Johnny Mack.
Yep. And I think Devin is 100% right. This is going to be a trenches draft, but, also figure out a way how to get a tight end in there. I think there's some subterfuge going on with the tight ends, and the Eagles being very quiet on that front because it's pretty deep tight end draft. Not talking about Warren. Don't get excited. All the Penn State people, they're not going to be in a position to get him or even Loveland from Michigan. But after that, and it starts with Taylor, who's obviously, has the great NFL genetics, as Devin mentioned, son of Jason Taylor. great pass rusher for the Dolphins. So starts with him, but there's some other good ones as well. Kid from Oregon is a potential. They got to do something at tight end. I feel very comfortable saying that. And that's even if for some bizarre reason things do work out with Dallas Goedert, they still need to think about the future, because in the best case scenario, this is probably a lame duck year for Dallas Goedert. Then you got to start thinking about the future and who the next tight end is. So if you can get a Mason Taylor, you can get an Elijah Aurora from Miami, if you can get a Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, Gunnar Helm from Texas, they got to get something, even if it's Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, a good blocking tight end. Harold Fannin, makes a lot. I brought up Bowling Green before. He's a great receiver at Bowling Green.
Yeah. Not my favorite fit for the Eagles.
He's so undersized, though. I don't, he's more of a receiving team, and they're a running team right now. And so I don't necessarily see the fit there, but there's a lot of good tight ends in this draft.
No doubt about it. Let's get to our last super chat here. Seth Shifley checking in. What's up, Seth? Hope you're doing well, brother. Appreciate your super chat. He says, Big Z and J-Mac, who are your top three day 3 dark horses in this draft? Ooh, that's tough. Top 3 is tough.
Oh, day 3. Well, for the Eagles, I mean, I think you've seen them. I'll focus on the Eagles. Jalen Smith is a guy who, I think they're pretty clear what they're doing there. That's a day 3 guy. And he can play a lot of different positions in the secondary. So I would not be surprised. I would expect him to be here, to have 4th, 5th round picks. I don't think they're going to use them all.
Right.
That's his range, maybe even a little bit quicker if they like that player. Tyler Barron's another guy like that, edge rusher, because I think you're going to see multiple bodies on the defensive front. So he's more of a day 3 guy. And they want potentially 2 edge rushers. And then you're not even talking about Josh Uche and hopefully Azeez Ojulari. So I could see that happening. And then some of the other guys, offensive line, I think Jalen Travis, the Iowa State tackle, he's a day 3 guy. You might have to trade up to get him a little bit. Elijah Roberts, another edge guy, he's a day 3 guy, but more of a higher level, I would say, than Tyler Barron. And Jaden Blue is the running back they look at, big speed guy, future. He's a potential day 3 guy. So those are some of the names that I been connected to the Eagles and would make some sense as developmental players.
Yeah, about Mason Taylor is one that I'm interested to see where he goes, that tight end from LSU. Obviously, his father was Jason Taylor, but I like him. And the other guy I like, I don't know if he's going to be higher than day 3. He might be a day 2 guy, but Darius Alexander from Toledo probably knows Quinyon Mitchell well, played there together. But I like him as a defensive tackle if they're not able to get one of their top DTs. But he might be a day 2 guy. He might be a round 3 or maybe even a round 2 guy. So we'll see. But those are a couple dark horses in the draft. Seth, appreciate you for checking in on that super chat. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Started a little late. My flight didn't get in last night till about 3 a.m. So flight industry is the worst in the game, man. So, but
you don't mention the airline name. You don't want to do that. What does it rhyme with? Shamerican, or does it rhyme with Felta?
It doesn't rhyme with either of the two.
I didn't get it.
It's Druntier. I don't know how to say something that rhymes with that, but
was it a Tampa flight? Where were you?
You were in Southwest Florida, so I was in Fort Myers, flying from there back to. I actually flew to Trenton because it was the only night flight that I
love flying to Trenton
because it's a small. I had a check bag because I was supposed to be there for a week, and I get off the plane. I'm like, the check bag's already coming through that tiny little airport, so it's perfect.
Oh, I love flying out of Trenton. Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah, I try and avoid the Philly airport.
Yeah, it's a nice place to fly out of. But if you're flying out of
Frontier, you get what you pay for. That's true.
If you're flying out of Fort Myers to Trenton, yeah, you just factor in a 15-hour wait.
Yeah, literally, no doubt. But Frontier's kind of got a grip on the Philly or Northeast to Florida route, because a lot of people do that. Frontier has now made it so it's like, they're the number one option, even if they suck ass. But that's what it is. Johnny Mac, great show today, brother. Your final thoughts on this Thursday edition. Man, we're cruising through almost another week down. We'll have a Football Friday edition tomorrow, and we'll be 13 days away from the NFL draft.
Well, now that you talked about flying out of Trenton, that's my final thought. I true story. First time I ever flew out of Trenton. I've done it quite a few times now, but first time ever. I drove up. I parked like it was my house, about three spots away from.
Yeah.
And I'm like, obviously I can't stay here. I'm looking for, where do I park, basically. And I find somebody who works at the airport, and they're like, "No, you're good. You're fine."
Yeah, you're right there. It's like $2 a day to park too. Yeah, I like the smaller airport. I see somebody mention the Newark airport. It's a little further from my house, so. But
Newark's huge.
I try and avoid the Philly airport.
But that was, by the way, now you say it's $2 a day. It was nothing then. That was many years ago. It was free. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I said, my car's getting towed, because I'm like, what am I doing? What? I can't leave my car here. And I found somebody, and he's like, no, you're good. You're fine. Unbelievable.
Good stuff. Johnny Mac, great stuff, brother. We'll talk to you tomorrow on a Football Friday of Birds 365. Thank you for doing it today, brother.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen, the number one Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow on X at JF McMullen. One of the best accounts on X, one of the best follows, especially if you're looking for Philadelphia Eagles information. I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here. I got one topic on Zander time today. I am back in my humble abode in my studio, so it's good to be home. Obviously, I was dying to get home, everybody, with what happened earlier in the week. I just wanted to get the hell home, bring some closure, and move on. But good to be back, and appreciate everybody being here today. We'll take a couple of comments from the great people, all right, as I always do. But here's my question for Zander time, all right, today. I asked Johnny Mac this. His rating was way lower than me. What do you think the floor is for this deal? And I know this is going to change because the draft. I understand that, but I'm more asking to get your general consensus on the losses that the Eagles defense has had, right? You lost Milton, you lost Sweat, you lost Brandon Graham, Darius Slay, you lost CJ Gardner-Johnson. So all of these guys, with those losses, you go from one to what? What do you guys think the floor is on this defense? Now, we did our bold predictions, me and Cilio, a couple of weeks ago, and I put them at top 5. But that was my bold prediction. That's not necessarily what I think their floor is. I have their floor at right around 10 to 12. That's what I think is the floor. I think Vic is going to pull it out of most of these guys and be a lot better. But John had him at 20 on the floor, and I'm like, ooh, 20? I don't think they're going to be 20. You still got Jalen Carter. You got Quinion. You got Coop. I mean, you got more with Jomo, Nolan Smith. You got Zach Baum back. Nakobe Dean should be healthy by, let's say, week 3, week 4. Like, I don't feel like 20. I mean, the losses are big, but let's be real. Those guys were not the guys that made this defense go. They weren't. Milton Williams didn't make the defense go. Josh Sweat was a good every down edge. I think that's the biggest loss with him, is that he was such a good every down edge. But I don't think he made the defense go. Certainly not late in the year, right? I think Nolan Smith was the better edge rusher from week 8 on, or whatever it was, when he kind of took over after the BG injury in November. But curious to see what your guys' takes are. Real Zeal says 20 if they have injuries. That's not bad. Shady says the floor should be around 10. Shady, I'm right with you, brother. That's right about where I am as well. By the way, I hope you got your T-shirt. I'll announce some more giveaways. I'm back in the studio today, so I will do some more giveaways again as well. Probably we'll do some tomorrow. Not going to do one today, but we will do some giveaways tomorrow. I'll have at least one legend giveaway tomorrow and at least one regular member giveaway again. So appreciate all you guys for being here for that. All right. Let's see a couple of other comments. 1 to 15, Twiz says, we need cornerback 2 and safety to pan out. Yeah, Twiz, I agree. But honestly, Twiz, I more think it comes down to the front. Like, I don't know if you heard the interview that Sills had. I think it was Bruce Arians earlier in the week. By the way, shout out to Sills. Great interview with Bruce Arians. He also had Frank Reich on this week. So great interviews from there. But, Bruce Arians was talking about the defense, and he's like, yeah, tell me my defense, works without a front four. It ain't. All right. I need a front four. That front four has to get home in order for this defense to work. Talking about that Vic Fangio defense. So I want that front, man. But here's the thing. I don't think the front's going to take as big of a hit as other people. I know you lost guys, but I'm pretty confident in Moro Ujomo. Maybe it's false confidence. Maybe I'm overblowing what he can be to this team. But look at Moro Ujomo, some of the advanced stats on him last year. He was winning at the line of scrimmage. He was winning at the line of scrimmage. He's going to have a bigger role this year. So I like him. I think Jalix Hunt is going to be better than most think early. Probably not ready to be Josh Sweat, but I think he's going to be better than people think. And the other guy I think is going to contribute is one of the other, Ojulari or Uche. I think they could be a contributor, add in a top pick. I feel pretty good. And then obviously you have the wrecking ball of Jalen Carter in the middle. So it's like, if he's dominating the middle, which we all assume he will, what does that open up for the rest of the defensive line, right? I mean, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. So while I do understand we have loss and there's turnover and you have to rebuild this defense, I do not think the floor is 20. I'm sorry. I do not think the floor is 20 at all. And I think Howie will do a good job of getting some bodies. The one thing that's clear is Vic knows he needs more bodies. And I'm sure Howie knows that too. So the one guarantee is with the draft coming up, even with post-draft, right, undrafted free agents. Remember, last year we signed Mekhi Becton right after the draft. So there's moves to be made still. And I think Howie's going to address some of those things, and Vic will be able to pull it out of him. But look, it's tough to repeat in the NFL. So this team has an uphill battle, but I do think they got the dudes in the room that are that will lead the charge and have a good chance to do it. So good stuff there. Good stuff there. Appreciate that. A-Team says Ajomo's my favorite young buck. Yeah, A-Team, you've been high on Ajomo for a while, man. And he was A-Team. If you look at what he did last year, and not just in his snaps, he played a lot of snaps, by the way. He played like 400 or 500 snaps, which is it's not a shit ton, but it's a lot. It's a good amount. So he was really impressive last year, man. He won at the line of scrimmage. Now, he had Jalen Carter next to him, but that's not changing. You get Jalen Carter back. You're getting Nolan Smith back. Now, here's the one concern I have on Nolan Smith, and I think it's fair, and I've been pretty high on the player since I altered, since he changed my take with his play last year. I do wonder, is he going to be able to hold up? He ended the year last year with an injury. He was drafted with an injury. When he said that interesting comment of sometimes my shoulder works, sometimes it doesn't, I was like, oh, that's not what you want to hear from a first-round pick. But my one concern with him is how does he hold up? This year he's going to have a full year being the top guy. He didn't have that last year. He wasn't the top guy until, Bryce Huff proved to be a trash can. Brandon Graham got hurt. And he was catapulted into action. So, I do think he's going to be a good player, but I hope the body can hold up from that front. So we'll see about him. I'll take a couple more comments, and then we'll get out of Dodge today. I got to try and get some Z's, man. I don't nap though. That's my struggle. I never have been good at napping. So, but I'll be live. I'll be working today, back in the studio as well. So good to be back in the studio. Good to be back in the studio here on JAKIB Sports. Appreciate all you guys. I think everybody last week, just an update on the giveaway. I think everybody should have got their giveaway. All right, I have my master list here. Let me pull that thing up. So Chip Snyder, Dank Bird Gang. Dank, are you in here? Is Dank in here? Let me look for Dank. I didn't see Dank this morning. Dank's normally an everyday guy. Not Dank Jinwoo, Dank Bird Gang. Dank Jinwoo, I love you too, brother. You're a great supporter as well. As Dank Bird, I didn't see Dank Bird Gang today. He should have got his. KCA Eagle, and I saw you in here, I think. I saw you got yours. That was pretty good. Vulnerable Vitality should have got his. Tyler Connors and Shady Westbrook. So I appreciate all you guys for being members on the channel. It obviously goes a long way in supporting the channel. So we appreciate that. Amber Baker got his. It's not Amber Baker anymore, Shady Westbrook. But obviously I remember the Amber Baker name. So wait, Dank is Dank Bird Gang? Is it? No, I didn't think. Oh, you are. Okay, Dank Jimmo, you changed your name. All right, I got you. I didn't see that. So cool. Appreciate you, brother. Boy, I like Dank Bird Gang. Get it better. What is Dank Jimmo? Give me the update. What does this mean? All right. What does this mean? What does Dank Jinwoo mean? Devin says, take care of Z. Again, sorry about your loss. I appreciate that, man. You know, I said to you guys yesterday, I'm not typically an emotional dude. Like, and I'm not trying to say this to like parade me or anything, but I'm really not. I'm not an emotional dude. Losing my dog fucking rocked me. Like, I think part of it was because it was a surprise. You know, my dog passed kind of suddenly. I mean, it was, you know, he was getting older, but he was nowhere near like I thought he was going to. I thought I had at least a few years left with the guy. And I was away, and he passed away on my bed. Went up and died on my bed. You know, within an hour span, he was perfectly fine in the morning. Ate, drank, went out, was carrying the toys around all day. And later in the day, he just kind of, I don't know if he had a heart attack or what it was, but yeah, it really rocked me, man. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I love my freaking dog. And, you know, when you're a dude like me and you're an introspective person and, you know, I'm not interested in a lot of outside friends. I got my family, I got you guys, and I got my dog, you know, and I adopted my dog when I was at the University of Alabama. And I was a sophomore, and I'll never forget, you know, getting him and adopting him and just go through life. You know, you think about it and you're like, damn, man, I had him through so many phases of my life back to when I was, 18 years old. And he kind of was with me as I've become a man in the last couple of years. So I don't want to keep talking about it, but I will tell you guys that shit rocked me. It really fucking rocked me. Like I can't believe how sad I still am. Even getting home last night, you know, dog's not there. Just brutal, absolutely brutal. So my dog was the fucking best. He was the fucking best. And I actually have a special Kango coming. That's going to be my Johnson Kango. All right. Because my dog was, I wish I got some pictures of him up in my room, but you know, he was black and white. All right. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of him. I got him as my background right now. I'll show you guys this. He was black and white. That's him sitting on the chair like a goof looking at me. But so I have a special Kango coming that's black and white, and I think it delivers today. So I'm looking forward to wearing that. I missed my pup, man. Threw me off my game a little bit this week, but don't worry. I'll be back strong. All is good. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm just kind of sharing with you guys because you're my family, you know, about what's been up this week. Obviously, haven't had as many posts and anything. So, yeah, I was surprised. I'm surprised that it rocked me as much as it did. I couldn't stay in Florida another day. I'm like, I got to get out of here. I really do. So I apologize to my beautiful girl. I had to leave her on her birthday, but she obviously understood, man. And no doubt, man. People that say man's best friend, man, if that ain't the truth, it really is, man. It really is, man. That dog knows more about me than anybody. All right. He understood me, man. So I really miss him, but I'm appreciative of you guys and everybody else. So it does stink though, losing a pet. So, especially in this way, you know, just the surprise element killed me. The fact that I couldn't get to say bye to him, you know, just kills me, bro. It really kills me that I wasn't able to be there and see him go. Now I'm venting a little bit to you guys, and I won't do that too much. But last note on Zander time today. All right. Last note on Zander time, a little happier note. I don't want to end on that. The Masters. I saw you guys saying, how do you watch golf? I freaking love the Masters. It is one of my favorite sports events of the year. I know not everybody likes to watch golf. I get that, but man, I love the Masters. I love the serene nature of it. The course is incredible. The golf is exceptionally hard. I saw some people saying, how do you watch golf? You know, I'll tell you, anybody that's been out in the golf course, all right, and has hit a golf ball knows how hard it is. And then you look at the level of precision that these professional golfers have. It's really remarkable how good these guys are. So I love watching it for that reason, but I love watching the Masters. I'll be watching it. And actually, a crazy note is this. My brother, who's a big shot now, started the business in New York City, raised a bunch of money, working in the AI field. He got invited to the Masters on Friday. So he's going to be at the Masters on Friday. I cannot believe it. Anybody who watches the Masters or who enjoys the Masters or who is a golf fan knows that basically the pinnacle event that you can go to. It's like going to a Super Bowl. It's going to the Masters. So my brother's going to be there on Friday. I'm so excited for him. I'm really pumped for him to go and experience that. He's going to love it. He's going with a client. So hopefully he'll close some deals and get some business done out there. But he's going down there. So I'm hanging out with him on Saturday. I'll kick it around with him and see, what he thought of the Masters. And I'm going to enjoy it today. It kicks off today. Here it is. I got it on my screen right now. And I put on the Masters Kango today. All right. It's funny. Kango names their colors, obviously. This one is actually called Masters Green. So I ordered it for the Masters. So here we go. The Masters are kicking off today. But I appreciate all you guys for checking in here today. Even the suckers and the losers and the haters. I love all you guys. See you next time, everybody, on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.